There's a kind of success people rarely talk about, the kind that shines brightly on the outside, but quietly erodes something essential on the inside. It's the kind that wins applause, secures validation, and builds a flawless image, yet demands a price that's far too high: the gradual distancing from your own truth. Many chase this version of success with discipline and determination. They climb corporate ladders, polish reputations, and tick off every box on society's checklist. From the outside, it looks like progress, but somewhere along the way, a subtle fracture begins to form, one so quiet it's almost invisible. You can't see it in the mirror, yet it grows with each compromise. That fracture is the slow untying of the bond with your own identity. Modern life is filled with ready-made paths: degree, career, home ownership, retirement plan. The formulas look safe, universal, unquestionable. But following them without reflection is like boarding a train without knowing where it's headed. You might arrive at the destination only to feel misplaced. It's not triumph that greets you, but estrangement, a misalignment between the life you're living and the person you truly are. Carl Jung never spoke about success as the world defines it. For him, real achievement wasn't about conquering the external world. It was about protecting the soul's integrity while walking through it. When that integrity is fractured, no number of promotions or accolades can fill the emptiness. Something inside remains suspended, fragmented, quietly waiting for reconciliation. This isn't an invitation to abandon the world or romanticize escape. It's an invitation to reclaim your center, to reach the kind of success that doesn't demand betrayal of your inner compass. Because success built on self-denial is at best a bad bargain, disguised as victory. The real question isn't just what have you achieved, it's who did you have to stop being to get here? Pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many of your recent choices were truly yours? How often have you smiled and said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? How many times have you accepted praise for something that, deep down, didn't even move you? There's a vast difference between living a life and performing one. And too many of us, maybe you included, are stuck in a role we've rehearsed so perfectly that we've forgotten where the performance ends and the truth begins. Jung called this identification with the persona, the mask we wear to navigate social worlds. But here, it's not just theory, it's everyday reality. The way you speak in the office, with friends, with family, how you tailor your words to appear professional, agreeable, mature, how you edit your emotions to fit the moment, even when your inner world is overflowing. Living like this is exhausting, but more than that, it's alienating. Relationships start forming around the image you present, not the essence you carry. You can be surrounded by people and still feel a hollow kind of loneliness, the kind that comes from knowing no one has met the real you. And over time, you may not know who that is anymore. This disconnect doesn't appear overnight. It seeps in slowly. It begins with small concessions, swallowing irritation here, bending to an expectation there. You start measuring your words, trimming your spontaneity. Then one morning, you wake up with the unsettling sense that life is moving forward, without you in it. Here lies the trap. The world will continue to applaud your performance. It will reward you, promote you, praise you for staying on track. No one will notice the silent hole forming inside because it's socially acceptable to live this way. As long as you're functional, no one questions your pain. But it's there, showing up as unexplained anxiety, sleepless nights, an emptiness that no milestone can fill. And here's the brutal truth. If you keep performing long enough, you forget how to be yourself. And when that happens, nothing remains but a productive body emptied of its soul. Before you reach that point, it's time to pause, not to quit the journey, but to redirect it, to ask the hard question, who is this version I'm showing the world? And who have I silenced inside to make this version possible? Because sometimes, the very success you've been chasing is the thing pulling you further away from who you truly are. And the sooner you see the mechanics of that trap, the sooner you can step out of it. From an early age, most of us have been conditioned to equate success with fulfillment. The formula was handed to us like an unquestionable truth. Get the diploma, land the stable job, reach financial independence, and happiness will naturally follow. The problem? No one mentioned that you could check every box, play every role perfectly, and still feel lost. The truth is, the success celebrated by the outside world often runs on a different track from the success your soul craves. The danger isn't in success itself. It's when it becomes the sole measure of your worth, an all-consuming target that drains your time, your energy, your relationships. Piece by piece, you begin sacrificing your creativity, your sensitivity, your spontaneity, all in service of a finish line that keeps moving. And here's the cruel twist. The closer you get, the more you realize there might not even be a finish line, just an endless race. Jung once said, "The unlived life is a disease from which one can die." Radical as it sounds, the truth in it is undeniable. How many people have you seen who followed the right path to the letter, yet remain restless, anxious, disconnected? This isn't bad luck, it's the natural result of living a life divorced from your own essence. External success often demands that you mold yourself into shapes that don't fit. You learn to survive in environments that don't welcome your true nature. You take on journeys that compress your spirit into a smaller and smaller space, all under the banner of professional growth. But what no one admits is that this so-called growth often comes at the cost of internal erosion. You climb and climb, only to realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall all along. By then, you're trapped, not because you can't see the misalignment, but because you've invested so much that turning back feels impossible. You've built an image that must be maintained. You've made so many concessions that the idea of reclaiming yourself feels like burning down everything you've built. This is when success transforms into a prison, one you can't leave without feeling like you've failed. But let's be clear, true failure isn't in changing course. Failure is continuing down a road that drains you just because it looks good on paper. Failure is becoming a stranger to yourself to keep up appearances. Failure is ignoring the constant internal signals that something is wrong.
If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support.
Simply because the outside world applauds your pace. The good news, there's still time to turn. But the shift demands courage. The courage to face the truth without sugarcoating it. Because success without alignment is just a quieter form of self-sabotage. And the sooner you see it for what it is, the sooner you can begin again from a place of authenticity. So how do you know if you're already losing yourself? The signs aren't dramatic. They rarely shout. They creep in, hidden inside your daily routines. You don't wake up one morning fully aware that you've become disconnected. It happens in fragments, in subtle patterns. And that's what makes it so dangerous. By the time you notice, you've been living for months, maybe years, as an edited version of yourself, functional, but incapable of truly feeling. Start by examining your choices. How many of them are grounded in genuine conviction? How many are driven by the fear of disappointing others, stepping out of line, or losing something others value? When you say, "I want this," does that want come from the core of who you are, or from the expectations placed upon you? Then, listen to your silences. Notice the moments when you bite back words that matter, when you shrink instead of speaking, when you dodge conflict, not because you're being wise, but because you're afraid to reveal a truth that might not fit your role. Every time you choose the image over the truth, you abandon a part of yourself. And watch your energy, not just physical stamina, but the deeper current that fuels your inner life. At the end of a day, do you feel nourished or emptied? Do your daily activities feed you in some way, or do they just leave you running on fumes? Living disconnected has a cost. Colors dull, passions fade, and moments that once moved, you now pass unnoticed. Worst of all, you start calling this numbness normal. Your emotions, too, begin to lose balance. Tiny frustrations spark outsized reactions, while moments that should stir you pass without impact. This happens because when you cut yourself off from your own truth, your unconscious starts sending the bill. Repressed emotions, unspoken needs, forgotten desires, they pile up like underground pressure. Eventually, they leak through the cracks. And then there's identity itself. It starts to dissolve. You become a shifting collection of roles. One self at work, another with friends, yet another with family. But none of them feel like the real you. Silence becomes unbearable, because in it, you hear the truth. You no longer know what moves you, what you truly want, what gives your life meaning. And that, more than anything, is frightening. These aren't dramatic breakdowns. They're more like a low, constant hum of discontent, a background ache, a quiet restlessness that lingers even when everything seems fine on the outside. Recognizing these signs is the first step. The next question is the harder one. Now that you see them, what will you do? The good news is this. Losing touch with yourself isn't the end. It's not a final verdict. It's a signal, a silent invitation from your deeper self to come back home. But that return won't happen on its own. It requires choice, presence, and deliberate action. The first step is disarmingly simple, yet profoundly uncomfortable. Radical listening to silence. And no, this isn't about guided meditations with soft background music. This is about stripping everything away. No phone, no distractions, no to-do lists. Just you, in stillness. At first, the silence will feel unbearable, almost hostile. That's because all the voices you've been ignoring, the doubts, the desires, the grief, the unspoken truths, finally have a chance to speak. But this is exactly where the work begins. The initial discomfort isn't a problem. It's the price of reconnection. The second practice comes straight from Jung's approach, dialogue with the unconscious. One of the simplest ways to begin is through deep, unfiltered journaling. Take a notebook and write whatever comes, without editing, without trying to sound smart or coherent. Imagine you're pouring words directly from your mind to the page, bypassing the social filter entirely. No one will read it but you. In time, buried truths will surface. Memories you didn't know you still carried. Emotions you've suppressed. Desires you'd long forgotten. Your only job is to meet them without judgment. Next, create rituals of symbolic reconnection. These don't have to be grand or dramatic. It could be a daily walk without headphones, where the goal isn't distance or speed, but listening to your body, your breath, the rhythm of your steps. It could be cooking a meal slowly and intentionally as a small act of care for yourself, or even something as simple as saying no to one small request, just to feel the strength of honoring your own boundaries. Don't underestimate these small acts. They signal to your unconscious that you're back, that you exist in full presence, and that you're ready to reclaim agency over your life. Another key practice is progressive sincerity. This isn't about unloading all your unfiltered truths in one day or severing relationships recklessly. It's about identifying the places where you most silence yourself and experimenting with gentle, authentic expression there. Notice where you play the role the hardest, maybe with a certain friend, at work, or in your family. Begin to show more of your actual thoughts and feelings in those spaces. Each small act of honesty builds the psychic muscle you'll need to live in alignment. But here's the reality. Walking this path means dismantling parts of the life you've built. And dismantling is frightening, because it threatens the delicate balance you've maintained for years. The more you choose yourself, the more you risk displeasing others, especially those who've benefited from your compliance. Which brings us to one of the most difficult, yet liberating stages of this journey. Learning to face the pain of disappointing people. It starts subtly. The co-worker who raises an eyebrow because you no longer go along with the unspoken rules. The family member who sulks because you didn't follow the script they'd written for you. The friend who seems unsettled by your honesty. Sometimes it's just the quiet weight of someone's unspoken disapproval, a look that says, you've changed. Here's the truth. When you start living more truthfully, you break invisible contracts. Emotional agreements that were never spoken, but were enforced all the same. And most people aren't disappointed in you. They're disappointed in the version of you they created. The image you maintained kept the relationship running smoothly, even if it ran on imbalance. When you remove that image, the dynamic shifts. Yes, it hurts, but it's also proof of rebirth. Every time you disappoint someone by being real, you're affirming a deeper loyalty to your own soul. And this requires courage, because the reflex to retreat is strong. You'll feel the urge to apologize, to smooth things over, to slide back into your old role just to keep the peace. But the cost of avoiding this discomfort is enormous. It means silencing your desires, swallowing your truths, and living in relationships built on conditions rather than authenticity. Jung described individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself, as an act of separation. Separation from the masses, from inherited values, from roles that no longer fit. And yes, that separation stings. For a while, you might be seen as selfish, inconvenient, or even strange. But there is no way to truly find yourself without letting go of what is no longer you. And here's the beauty. After the dust settles, the relationships that remain will be stronger. They'll be rooted in truth, not in performance. And new connections will arise. People drawn not to the mask you wear, but to the person you actually are. This marks the beginning of a new cycle, one where success is no longer measured by applause, titles, or external validation. Instead, it's measured by something quieter, steadier, and far more powerful: the ability to see yourself clearly in the mirror and feel at peace. In the end, all the goals you've achieved, the certificates framed on your wall, the numbers in your bank account, they don't carry the final weight. What matters is the moment you're alone with yourself, when the noise of the world fades and every mask you've worn slips away. What do you see then? Who is left when the performance ends? Jung often reminded us that the soul has its own pace. It doesn't race toward milestones, and it's not impressed by trophies. The soul craves something simpler, yet far more demanding: truth, integration, wholeness. If you spend your life bending yourself into shapes that fit external ideals of success, you inevitably sacrifice the one thing that could have made you whole: your authenticity. True success, then, isn't a trophy on the shelf or a moment when you can finally say, "I made it." It's not about crossing a finish line. It's about walking in ongoing alignment with who you are. It's a living commitment to make choices that honor your own conscience, even when they cost you comfort, approval, or stability. That kind of life requires courage, because it means accepting that some people will misunderstand you. It means being willing to disappoint others in order to stop betraying yourself. It might mean starting over. It might mean taking a path no one else sees. But here's the secret. Very few will tell you. Living your own truth hurts in the beginning, but it's the only pain that sets you free. Yes, you may lose people. You may lose opportunities. You may lose the security of fitting neatly into the world's expectations. But what you gain is beyond measure: an unshakable sense of internal integrity. And that is the foundation of any happiness worth having. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, it's because something in you has already begun to stir. You've felt the quiet recognition that you can't keep living halfway, half in truth, half in performance. That awareness is the signal. And from this moment on, it's the voice you need to listen to most. So I'll leave you with two questions. One's worth answering honestly, not for me, but for yourself. At what point in your life did you realize you were starting to lose yourself? And perhaps more importantly, what are you ready to change from this moment forward? Write it down. Say it out loud. Share it if you feel brave enough. Because naming your truth, even in small ways, is the first act of claiming it. And if these words have resonated with you, don't stop here. Keep walking. Keep peeling back the layers until you meet the unfiltered version of yourself. The path of self-knowledge is long, but every honest step is a quiet victory over the forces that would rather see you forget who you are. In the end, that's the only success worth pursuing. The kind where you can look in the mirror. Not the glass one in your bathroom, but the mirror of your own awareness, and feel a steady, unshaken peace. A life where you don't just exist. You belong to yourself completely.